Well, my friends, here she is, Miss Missy. Hi, sweetheart. You just wake up? Oh, my goodness. Just taking a little break. Anyhow, we'll be back in a minute. Hey, kiddo. Having a good day? Okay, back in a minute. It's a wondrous world, full of wondrous things. Beauty everywhere you look. What a glorious place to live. Magic, berries, and wonderful eye candy from Mother Nature. Well, boys, let's go shoot the place up. Okay, my friends. Today we're going to continue on with the indirect method of aiming that Jerry Hill has written about in his book. The most important things that I got from that book was that Uncle Howard used his dominant eye was his left eye, in other words, his weak eye. Okay? Since then, I'm really making sure I get it on. And remember, you have to turn your head until you see double vision. That means this eye and this eye are both seeing something, and the view overlaps. It would make you think it's blurry. It's not blurry. It's this vision and this vision. And the big deal is that if you do this and you point at the target, when you close your eye, your dominant eye will be pointing directly at the target. But if you turn your head this way, try it. Turn your head this way and point at the target and then close this eye, and you'll see that your finger is pointing a little bit more to the left. So you've got to get the double vision to get that dominant eye on. Okay? So that's one thing. And here's another thing. We're always being told that we need to get the arrow under the eye. Well, that's not really necessarily so. Yes, when I use the method where I use a gap and I get right on the center line and line up, it works like that. But if we take a look, if I've got my arrow, and my arrow will go over here or here so that you can see it. This is where the arrow sits, over there. Well, if I'm at my anchor, you can see the arrow is actually on the right of my eye. It is not under the eye unless I start canting and turning and twisting my head. Okay, so this is parallel aiming. It goes here, your arrow is there, and it looks parallel to the target. You're looking at the target, but the arrow appears parallel. It does not go on an angle towards the target or you will shoot there. And if the angle is that way, you'll shoot that way. It has to be parallel. And again, it's not exactly under the eye. So that's why we do this. Okay? So we're looking at the target. And we've got our head turned so that this eye and this eye are both on now. And we just line it up, relax, and let go. Anyhow, let's go do some shooting and stop this theory stuff. Okay, back in a minute. Okay, guys, now this is a really long lesson, but anyhow, there's more that I have to tell you, and this is about the most important thing that I've shown you in several years. Once I realized that I had to aim indirectly instead of my arrow. If you use your arrow, everything is in a reference to the arrow, you know, how low, how high, how left, how right. But when you use indirect aiming, what I found is all of a sudden I got what I would call a sight picture. I'm not aiming the arrow, and I'm aiming just like it was a rifle sight. And I want to show you what I see. If my arrow is here, I can see the left side of the arrow, and I can see my glove. That's a flat area there, which gives me really good elevation. I can tell, because it's flat, much better where the elevation is, rather than looking off the tip of a little circle. Much better. Anyhow, the arrow is there. I can see the left side, but you notice my glove has a bump there. So for me, my target should be about halfway between that bump, just a little to the right of it and a little left of the arrow, and it will shoot very straight. Now, if you don't have a glove, you will have a wrinkle on your finger or a groove where your knuckle is, something that is a reference point. So it doesn't have to be my glove. Your sight picture will not be exactly the same, but you will see your arrow. It will be on the right, and there's some reference point. And if you can look at that target and get that glove lined up, and you're not looking at the glove, you're not aiming your glove, you're looking at the target, but it's a spot, it's a window. You put the target in the window. Look, I've tried to draw a little picture here. Now, this is sort of what I see. Let's see if you can see this. There's my arrow pointing that way, and it's on the right. There's a flat area of my glove that I can use for elevation. Also, I use this area for elevation. I no longer use the top of the arrow for elevation. And with my bow and this particular arrow, the target is this little square here, you see? So what I'm seeing is a window, or it's like a sight. There's the right side of the sight, there's the left side of the sight, and the target's in the window, in the sight. Okay? Now that's about the best way that I can show it. But anyhow, once you learn that there's that spot, you just push it on. Just push it there, and you'll be there. You don't have to stand and bend your knee and hold the bow this way and get a certain cant and a certain anchor and all these kinds of things. You simply put the target in the window and get back there, and you're going to do pretty good. Very simplified, works great. Thanks, Jerry. And thank you, Uncle Howard. Anyhow, now let's go do some shooting. Enough talking. Okay, my friends, so we have this ram down here at 25 paces. Let's take a couple of shots at it. Put the target in the window. Okay. Tim got a bow a couple weeks ago, and he was saying that his bow was crooked, and of course it was. It's a character bow, and it follows the grain. So if a tree curves a little bit, the grain is straight when it goes that way. If you cut across it, it'll break. So anyhow, it's okay to have bumpy and lumpy bows, but I wanted to show you. See Ebb here? See how he goes up straight and all of a sudden he goes on an angle? Perfectly good, you know. He's got bumps on him and stuff like that. But anyhow, it's okay for a bow that is made of wood to follow the grain and to be a little bit crooked. And that's about it. So that's what I was going to say, Tim. Anyhow, when we're using this kind of a technique, and you know, we're putting the target in the window, well, we can get some hits. Back in a minute. And at this time of the year, I always find Mother Nature kind of fascinating, all the kinds of mushrooms. And if I look at that picture right there, you know, I sort of see nature making like a little bonsai scene. You know, two little mushrooms there in the moss, and then the bigger one. I just think it's kind of pretty. Anyhow, back in a minute. Okay, guys, we've got a couple of targets down here at 20 paces. Okay, so basically that's what we're doing. Uh, you know, Tom Penenti, he's a guy who has written lots of times. I hope I got your last name right, but it's about hunting season. He usually goes out hunting, so I just said I'd mention him. Now, Tom, we're really getting into this thing where we're aiming through the window, and we're simply putting the target in the window. It eliminates all kinds of having to aim and adjust. You simply put the target in the window. And if you can get back to your anchor, you've got a good shot. So I've only learned that just because I stopped aiming the arrow, because I started to use indirect aiming. And unless you're looking with the arrow not on, you're never going to see the window. I only really found this technique by not looking at the arrow. So that's what you've got to do. Look at the target, put the target in the window, and if you get it all lined up, she'll go straight once you find your window. And anyhow, I'll harp and preach on that for a while. And, you get some hits. Okay? Okay. Back in a minute. Okay, guys. So, got a target down here at 24 paces, and the sun is starting to set. Well, I guess that's it for today. The whole idea that I'm trying to get across today is that if we aim the arrow, we will never see the sight picture because that's how we're lining up. So that's one way of shooting. But I do believe that using a sight picture is much better. Much, much better. It's not a sight picture exactly like a rifle. It's a little bit irregular perhaps, but if you put the target in that right spot, you'll line up very, very easily. So that's what I think. I think if you use the indirect way of aiming, you're going to discover your sight picture. And when you do, it's going to help you out a lot. In the meantime, in between time, ain't we had fun? Okay, guys. Hope you have a good week. Talk to you later. Bye now.